lovely.
No, 7 Atzliach. Rivka, are you on the Shevach chat also? Are you on the Shevach chat? So I just sent the document for the visual, because the Zoom people, I'm sharing it on screen, but you won't. It's good to have the words as I'm going through them. Yeah, take your phone out and just like.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, חברות. Bezrat Hashem, I'm sorry, but we need to start because we also need to finish. So, since it's Erev Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and it's 2 weeks before Pesach, and Geula is in the air, and I figured we'll do Pesach through the words, through the letters. And I mean, Begadol, our sages speak about Geula Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Mitzrayim, as Geulat Hadibur, the redemption of speech, because as slaves we did not have the right to speak. We were so enslaved, we had such a slave mentality on our own that we had no idea how to express ourselves, and that this situation we were in was even wrong until Moshe Rabbeinu came and taught us otherwise. And what he taught us was, gotta learn to express yourselves. That's why the holiday is called Pesach, the mouth that speaks, and why the king of Egypt, who subjugated us and enslaved us, is called Paro, Pe-ra, a bad mouth. That's opposite the Pesach, and everything really to do with the Pesach Seder all has to do with talking. The whole thing is talking, right? And the book is called Haggadah, and the Torah calls it, like, it's based on the mitzvah lehagid. We have to tell this story over to the children. It's the use of words. And as we've been learning this whole time, words are the building blocks of creation, which means it's the building blocks of reality. So when we find ourselves in a reality that is not good for us, that is meitzeras, that's Mitzrayim, that is a constricted place. All of these are Hebrew words. They're geographical places. They are names of real people that once upon walked the face of the earth. But the letters that make up the names of the people and the places, they all have they're so loaded with spiritual significance and implications. Okay, so I want to thank Sheva Chaya for gifting me with this book of like a few weeks ago, and it's called Sodot Lashon Ivrit. Okay, the secrets of the Hebrew language, and it's by Rav Dan. I can't pronounce his last name, but everybody calls him Dan. Rav Dan. Okay, so what? So I mean, when we did the Daled and the Nun, I spent a lot of time speaking about Dan, actually, because it's the two middle letters of Ad, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, the name of Hashem, Adnut. Okay, so you'll have to review your notes for that one. So I basically, this whole class, there's certain things that I knew from before, Paro, Pera, Mitzrayim, Makom Tsar, it's a constricted place, Pesach. But he introduced me here to like a new thing. So it's always a delight to come across a new book that gives freshness to the learning that we do, and it's such a delight, and that's what makes Torah so much fun. Aside from being an obligation to learn, Hashem is so kind to us because he makes it so much fun. Hashem is so good, right? It's just such a pellet. It's such a pellet from beginning to end. So basically what Rav Dandan is saying is that the Torah, is a Torah. Let me screen share and you'll have your document in front of you. Are you on the Shevach chat? Was she put on the Shevach chat?
It's okay.
If you want to, you can sit here and then you can see the document, because everyone else has the document in front of them. Or if you don't, you can just sit there. But, yeah, okay, good. So basically the story of Yetziat Mitzraim is a story of 3 stages. That involves 3 stages. And it's not only the story of once upon time that there was a people in Mitzrayim that had to leave Mitzrayim, and eventually after 40 years in the desert, they got to Eretz Yisrael. This is the story of everybody's neshama in this world. And that's the journey of everybody's neshama. And this spiritual journey, here I'm reading from the document, the title of this, Hamasa haruchani shel kol neshama mehaMitzrayim shela le'eretz Yisrael shebetocha. It's a spiritual journey of every neshama from her own personal Mitzrayim that she feels once she leaves this lofty place up with Hashem basking in his glory, coming down to this constricted place, frustrating place, this world. And it's compared to what she had up there, free, unbounded by a body which limits her and defines her abilities. And limits her ability, so it's a Mitzrayim every time a neshama comes into this world. But the job of this neshama, our tafkid, our mission, is to get to Eretz Yisrael. And each one of us experiences a Mitzrayim, and we all have to get to the Eretz Yisrael that is betochenu, that is within ourselves. So the journey is not a physical journey from a physical place to a spirit, to another physical place. Although, yes, Jews, right, Yudit? Come to Israel.
I'm not looking because I can
come to Israel. Okay, fine. No, but I'm making a point that's like, yes, important. We're holding the flag together today.
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, but it's also an inner journey, that's a spiritual journey, that's despite where you are in the world, you're still going through this masa, this journey from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael. Okay? In an internal way. So what do I have here? Every stage. So what are the three stages? There's being in Mitzrayim. I'm not calling that a stage. That's a given. We're in Mitzrayim. We come into this world, we're in Mitzrayim. Okay? But the process of leaving Mitzrayim, which is all about Pesach, right? Which is the whole concept of Nisan, right? And the freedom that we feel in Nisan is stage one, Yetziat Mitzraim. How does one leave this Egypt? And then second stage is, so stage one, we have to leave Mitzrayim, right? We all agree that we have to leave Mitzrayim? Yes. Second stage, walking through the desert for 40 years. And the third stage is finally, we don't match today. No, we don't match today, but it's okay. We don't clash either, so it's good. And
Third stage.
And the third stage is entry into Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and we're going to see this. We're going to do this shir because it's a combination. It's our siyum of AlefBet, right? Our AlefBet class, which can literally go on for another 10 years, but we're gonna okay, maybe pick it up another time. So we're going to do all of this through the examining of the words that have to do with the story of Yetziat Mitzraim. Okay, it's all going to be rooted and based on words and the letters that make them up, because it's the siyum for AlefBet course. Okay, so every one of those stages. Hey, Malka, so nice to see you. Okay, so. Oh, she doesn't have. Does anybody have her WhatsApp? Because can you WhatsApp her my document from the Shevach? Just WhatsApp it.
She can share with me, right?
Or she can share with us. Batya Meira, would you like to sit down?
I read your lips.
You read my lips.
When
So
I don't see your lips,
where's the ideal place for you to sit? So sit there.
Thank you.
Actually, I match Batya Meira, right? Or is my glasses off?
Right.
No, it's the orange.
Only one who is lip reading.
Your colored glasses.
Yeah. Okay. No, she's not on the Shevach chat. She's not. You did not want to be on the Shevach chat. We forgive you and we love you. And we understand. Okay, anyway, let's go back. Okay. So this is the spiritual journey. Each one of those stages is its own spiritual content of what the neshama goes through. Okay. to either having to leave Mitzrayim or what that looks like in the spiritual journey through the Midbar, through the desert, and what does it mean, that spiritual final journey of getting to that place of the redemptive place of that's called Eretz Yisrael, which is the end of the spiritual journey of ourselves. Okay, so how does the neshama leave Mitzrayim? I'm not even going to bother defining Mitzrayim because we all know what our own Mitzrayim are. But okay, so we have a king called Paro, right? Paro, Melech Mitzrayim. He's the one that keeps us in Mitzrayim. Let's first look at the word Mitzrayim. Look how it's spelled, okay? In the document, I have it Mem, Sadiresh I put in red, and then Yud and Mem. So, you know, so from the letters, just examining the word Mitzrayim. Tsar, what does tsar mean? The shorish of the word, the two most important letters that make up the word Mitzrayim is tzadi and resh. What is tsar? A constricted place, narrowness, constriction. What's Meitzar? Like the straits, Metzarei Tiran. We took that over in 1967 with the 6-Day War. Metzarei Tiran, it's the straits of Tiran. It's a narrow passage. In the anatomy of the person, this place is called Metzarei Hagaron. Metzarei Hakol. It's the most narrowest place, which happens to be the connector between the head and the heart. But it's a very narrow place. And in Mitzrayim, as we were slaves in Mitzrayim, this narrow place was all choked up and clogged up and couldn't express itself and couldn't talk until finally, what started the redemption? What started Hashem, causing Hashem to look at them and say, okay, I have to take them out? When finally they sighed and they screamed out to Hashem. It was the beginning of the opening of the vocal cords. So they went from Galut Hadibur, from exile of speech, to Geulat Hadibur. What's the difference between Galut and Geulah? And now I'm off. The Aleph, and that's significant, right? You bring Hashem into the story, and you're already redeemed. And that's what from Galut Mitzrayim, screaming out to Hashem. Okay. So now let's look at this word Mitzrayim. Mitzar times 2. Why I write that there? Because Yud Mem, when you have Yud and Mem added to the end of a word, what does that make it? Plural. And what is the minimum of plural? 2. So Mitzrayim is Mitzar times 2. Okay, so Mitzrayim is not just any old place of constriction and place of enslavement and jail that you don't feel you can get out of, but it's a jail within a jail. It's like heavy. Okay. Tsar is from tsarut. What's tsarut? Narrowness. It's also from the word tsara. It's any place that causes us sorrow and trouble. And those places, when we're experiencing the trouble, that's this tsarut, this meitzar, this not good place that we find ourselves in, this prevents us from what? From speaking, from praying, from experiencing expansiveness of nefesh, breadth of scope of I can handle this. When a person is in Mitzrayim, they feel like it's beyond me. I have nothing that I can help myself with. I am completely at a loss. Okay, so now go down the let's look at the word Paro. Paro is spelled Pei Resh Ayin Hei. And the root letters that make up Paro is Pei Resh Ayin, from the word Hafra'ah. It's the shosh of the word Hafra'ah. What is Praot? Now, we live in Israel, we hear about Praot. What is that? You did. Disturbances. Right. When bad things happen and the shtachim and there's hafraot, right? It's lehafriya means to disturb. Al tafriya lakita, stop disturbing the class. The teacher would tell us to. Okay. But what does that mean? What's the what happens when there's a hafra? It's a disturbance of calm. There's an unraveling of what should be united and clean and proper. So how do you say that a woman, Adele, is uncovering her hair and undoing her braid? I figured you'd know.
I actually don't.
What do you call wild hair that's not
Parua,
kept?
parua.
Parua, se'ar parua. It's the same thing.
We also need that kind of shakeup if people are so complacent and so unaware that they're in this state of slavery. You're gonna need that shakeup.
Okay, so but okay, so there's different stages of shakeup. Okay, in this poem, in the context of that's what the Makos brought to Paro and Mitzrayim. They shook up their whole system of belief. It was one God after another that they held as a god, a koach unto itself. It was makkah after makkah. You know, I have a new audience here. You know, when Paro was asked how the makot were, you know what he said? Eser. That's a joke because Eser means like the best, like in Hebrew. How do you translate that in English? What would the translation of that be? As
Like
Top.
10 out of 10 or something. Yeah.
it's like the emoji of 10. Okay, anyway. So Paro is the shoresh of it. You can rearrange it and spell it ha'oref, which is the back of the neck. We'll speak about that later. Rabbi Nachman does a lot about that, and the Zohar Kadosh. But for now, I want to look at it from the context of it. It means hafra'ah. It means a disturbance. How does Paro keep us in Mitzrayim? How did we not yell out sooner? How did we just accept being slaves for as long as we did? Why didn't we get up and try to move out of there sooner? Because, okay, so Paro is because he causes Paro's tactic, and every one of us has a Paro within ourselves. Remember, this is a once upon a time story, but it's a continuous story that happens to each one of us all the time. So if there was a Paro in Mitzrayim back then, there's a Paro within us, because we're talking about a spiritual journey. Where is this Paro in within ourselves? Ha'oref. It's the same letters, just put the hey in a different place. Actually spell it backwards. Hey, ayin, resh, fe. Ha'oref, which is the back of the neck, which it controls, which in the bad sense, in terms of Paro being a pera, a bad speak, use of bad language. That's how he gets us from this place in the back of the neck. He controls the vocal cord and saying, you're not getting out of here. You're not worthy to get out of here. You're my slaves. You are a slave to your addictions, to your taivas, to whatever your jail is, whatever this Makom Mitzrayim is, okay? So what is this? In terms of a hafra'ah, it's a disturbance of our spiritual well-beingness. He disturbs our calm, our yishuv hadat, to the point that we can't get out of Mitzrayim because we believe the rhetoric. So what's the hafra'ah of Paro? Hafra'ah ruchanit. It's spiritual disturbance. And what is spiritual disturbance? Just like unkept hair, like unraveled hair, it's mefuzar, it's scattered. There's a bilbul, there's a confusion there. It's uncombed, it's tangled, it's a mess, right? Just like, okay, so just like Haman said to Achashverosh, yesh am echad mefuzar umfurad, right? We are scattered and we are not united. When you comb your hair, it's nice. Why can't we comb our hair on Shabbat? Because it's boneh. The melacha on Shabbat, the isur melacha of not combing one's hair is actually boneh, because you're smoothing it out and stacking one after the other on top. It's opposite Paro hafra'ah. Okay. Now what else that? Now look at the shoresh peresh ayin. If you rearrange the letters, which is something that we're allowed to do in terms of getting access to the inner essence of meanings, there's implied meanings when the same letters rearranged spell out a different word. It's an insight into the word. Okay, so paro peiresh ayin rearranged spells afar ayin feiresh. What is ayin feiresh? What is afar? Earth. Dust of the earth, right? Now, what do we know about now? Beautiful. For those of you who come to my Wednesday Rav Ashla class, this is very exciting. Okay. Because yeah, okay. Because what category of domain is earth? The inanimate, right? The domem, right? How much ratzon lekabel does a domem have? Minimal, hardly negligible. Rocks don't move unless you kick them. On their own, there's no ratzon to move anywhere, right? So earth is gravity that keeps you just stuck in your place, immovable. And it's a reference to Paro as an insight. The fact that his letters are made up of the same letters that spell afal speaks about a heavy egotism of the person that has only ratzon to be enslaved to his tavot, not to move anywhere else. Mani rotze, that's it. Like a baby. What does a baby want? Cries a lot, and he's got a lot of demands. And that's the stage of a domem, of just give me, I just need my comfort, and I just don't want to move. You just have to supply my retzonot. But it's with very little awareness of what's the environment and anything else outside of himself. So afar. Okay, we get this also from Sharik Dusha, Ram Chaim Vital, when he speaks about the different elements and the different bad midot that are character traits, and the emotional wreckage of a person that's holding from an emotional state that corresponds to earth is depression, actually. Okay, is laziness. It's also a person who's lazy doesn't have much of a ratzon, right? So but they have a ratzon for teavot and ochiyot. Just draw to myself, and this is Paro. Why does this correspond to Paro? Because Paro stands for hafra'a ruchanit, spiritual disturbance. So there's no spiritual movement. There is no spiritual ratzon in afar. Right? There's no spiritual aspirations in inanimate objects, in earth. Just is. Where you drop it is where it's going to land unless it's kicked around. And so the main reason for this pizur ruchani, for the scattered spiritual things, what does mean being scattered spiritually? It means not focused. I flit around from one ratzon to the other ones. I want to be religious one day. The next day, I'm not religious. It keeps changing depending. The environment affects me. Is king over me. It defines my ratzonot. Okay, so there's a scatteredness of ruchniut, and that's Paro's trick. That's the Yetzer Hara of Paro. That's what he does. Keeps us not focused. Keneged Paro, keneged dat Paro. What do we have? Dat Moshe Rabbeinu, dat Torah. But we're going to speak about that later. Okay.
I'm focused or distracted.
It's both.
But he kept us focused through all the hard work so that we shouldn't think.
He kept us focused in hard work, which is nonsense work, which is just rooted in this world. Enslavement. Give us examples of modern day enslavements and addictions that a person needs to get out of.
Internet.
Okay, thank you.
That's the best one.
Even just like going to
What's
like
that?
a job that you don't care, but just to be able to like pay taxes and keeps you in an enslaved system and.
Yeah, keep you in a job that's not fulfilling, and
Yeah,
as
you
opposed to
not
finding what
focusing
you
on
can
your
find
purpose.
fulfillment, and maybe your purpose is you're being missing on your purpose because someone in society said without an X amount of salary, like a monthly salary, or nothing, or something like that. You buy into it. That's a poem.
In response to what you were
Yeah.
saying, he didn't keep us focused on doing the work. Kept us doing the work so that we were not focused, and we were so exhausted from the work that we couldn't.
But we
think.
were working, is her point. We were working, we were focused on the wrong things.
I see.
He kept us distracted from purpose with this world nonsense. Okay, that's what our parole is telling us. Oh, good, right? Yeah, good. Okay.
And if it was building some pyramid for as a tomb where, one person's gonna go into the earth. You gotta say like, it's a long lasting, well visited place, right? But
Oh, those pyramids?
In terms of the structure, or in terms of whatever they were building, but like it's something that.
Actually, our tradition says the Arei Miskanot, first of all, okay, let's look at that. I didn't bring it here, but okay, fine. Thank you. What did he have them build? Arei Miskanot. The word cities of Pitom and Ramses. And they're called in the Torah Miskenot. What word does that sound like? Nebuch. Misken. Every single word in this story is significant. Miskenot. And you look at the Mefarshim, why was it Misken? Because it was built on unstable earth that just kept breaking it apart. It was like they built it and then they had to go and revisit the same work over and over again because it didn't have it was just like it was like a not good stand. I'm not to come with the pyramids because
Didn't have a good foundation.
it didn't have a good foundation. It kept sinking in the ground and it was just like repetitive work that seemed to go nowhere, and that's what it lacked purpose. And then even the Pitom and Ramses, those words Pitom, he like suddenly, in other words, he didn't give us a chance to think about it because he just like threw us into this situation and then we have to catch our breath and we have to, like that's part of the hafra'ah and the pizur dat, that scatteredness, and kept us away from this. And also Ramses, Ra. Okay, I forget what to do with that, but there is a whole detour. But there's a Hasidus on it. It's not there. I'm surprised that he didn't mention this. There's a few things I got chidushim from this book that I wanted to call Rav Dandan because he mentioned certain things and I thought, oh, yeah. Rasam. Oh, we're gonna get to the Sam soon. Okay, but okay, let's move away from this. So Paro. So now, so you got the Paro, Afar, Hafra. Okay, now look at the word Tsar. Let's go back to the word Mitzrayim and the word Tsar, which is the two main letters that make up the word Mitsuhyme. Rearrange the word Tsar, which means constriction, is Ratz. What's Ratz? To run. And it's also, and Ratz is the Shorosh of Ratza. Rotze, Lirtzot. Okay? The Hefech of Tsar, a constriction place, because a constriction place is you feel jailed, you feel like you can't move. That's the whole point of like Mitzrayim. We're not able to move. No slave ever left Mitzrayim, they say, right? Until we left Mitzrayim. But Tsar is like Hefech Ratz. That's why it's Hipuch Otiyot. That's why it's written, rearranged in a different way. So because a person, when does a person run? When he has a ratzon to get somewhere. When he's in touch with purpose, then a person runs, because you run to something. You're not just running like a crazy man, not knowing where you're running. So you're still behafra'ah. You're under parole, like you're just crazy. Like you're bebilbul. You're a confused person. No issue with that. But somebody who runs, usually they run. They know where they're running to. They know where they're running from, and they know where they're running to. There's a direction, and just like so the stronger the ratzon for a particular purpose, and what should be the ratzon of every Jew, to do avodat Hashem and to bring tikkun to the world, bring tikkun to ourselves, and bring with a singular focus. If it's not going to connect me to Hashem and to Nishmot Israel, then it's not good. Then I have to contemplate what I'm doing to redirect, right? So the stronger the ratzon for a specific purpose, the person then becomes retzini, more serious about what he's doing. There's a ritzinut. completely opposite of what the experience was in Hafra'ah of Paro b'Mitzrayim, of building these arei miskenot. What's the pshat of arei miskenot? Mas, like a collection of mas, of taxes and stuff like that. Like there is a pshat to understanding it, but the inner, deeper meaning, if you examine the words, it's misken. So ratz is ratzon, and when you have a singular focus, a ratzon to do something, then you know to run to it, and you have a retzinut in doing it. You have a seriousness about it. You're retzini. So what's Mitzrayim, which is spelled Sadi Resh, up backwards from Ratz, Sadi before Resh? It's a diminishment of Ratzon for things of Kedusha. So Ratz, when you're running to something that's in the realm of Kedusha, it's a very good thing. You're running to Kedusha. That's why Eretz Israel is Reish Tzadi with an Aleph in the beginning. I feel like
Wow.
Okay. So now, what do we have here? Avadim ha'inu leparo b'Mitzrayim. So what's the essence of Mitzrayim? It's spiritual enslavement of the person. To what? What is he enslaved to? This internal paro that says you have taivas, desires, lust, habits, patterns of behavior that you're stuck in, and this is it. You're stuck there. Don't think of any. Don't stop that nonsense of thinking you're going to be anything other than what you are now, enslaved to your patterns of behavior and patterns of thinking that's keeping you stuck in this place called Mitzrayim. We feel the frustration. We feel the weight of the afar dragging us down. But we also feel powerless to do anything about it. So we resign, and then we're just living dead people. Okay, that's Mitzrayim, that's with Paro.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there's nothing that I know of anyway of anyone making a revolution or something in Mitzrayim.
Right.
Like
Until Moshe Rabbeinu came, and then there was a revolution. He began a revolution. Power to the people, power to Hashem. Okay. Anyway, so what do we hear when we're in Mitzrayim from this Paro? That our taivas and our patterns of behavior, they are controlling you, and you have no power to change habit, change situation, change it. Okay. And this is Paro, Melech Mitzrayim, because he's Molech in Mitzrayim. He's the ruler there. And what's Melech? Mem, Lamed, Chaf, Moach, Lev, Kaved. So where is the rulership of Paro on our mind? Moach, I don't have it on the document. I'm just thinking it now. Moach, Lev, heart, it controls our thinking, it controls our emotions, and controls our Kaved, liver, which is like basic instinct. So the big disturbance, confusion, just to get us off track of Kedusha from breaking away and running to Kedusha, preventing us from getting to Eretz Yisrael, because ultimately on the spiritual journey, that's where we have to get to. Okay, so now I have, what do I have in the document? Avodat Parech. Parech, as we know, how do is usually, I'm very frustrated because it's already 2:43 and I have I'm still on page 1 and I have 5 pages here. I'm like seriously frustrated here now. It's
Is there a
okay.
class after?
It's there's dance till 11:15. We'll go to 11:15. Okay. Avodat Parech. What's Parech? What did we usually translate it about? Like back-breaking work, okay? But breaking up those 3 letters that make up the word Parech, we can see Perach. It's a soft mouth. So people want to know. I didn't bring it to you here, but Rashi's like, I think it's Rashi. I don't know. It's a well-known commentary. It is Rashi. How did Paro manage to, from Yosef, that was the ruler Mitzrayim, how does he get to enslave all of his people, okay, all of his family? He started with a Perach. First he flattered them. He said, come and work for me, I'll pay you. And then slowly but surely he paid less and less. And then until finally, and they accepted because they wanted to be in good favor with the Torah, until finally they became his slaves. It starts with the Perach, and that's how the Yetzer Hara get us. Yetzer Hara doesn't tell us right away, break Shabbos, chas v'shalom. He says, text on your phone. Who says it's Chilul Shabbos anyway? No one's gonna like. He starts with little things, right? And then all kinds of excuses and then chas v'shalom, a person is like outright loses his way completely. So that's why Parech, what I have here, it's all Rav Dandan, all of this, whatever's in the document is Rav Dandan. Okay, Parech is if you rearrange the letters, you get Kaf Fei Resh, which is the shoresh of kfira, heresy, denial. Okay, so you get to a place of, in other words, the perach of Paro, the soft, his tactic of us getting us to into this place of enslavement of habits that we can think that we can't escape from. We're rooted too much in a bad place. This is kfirah. This is heresy. This is a denial of what? Of religious principle, of emunah, of a principle that Hashem, Anochi Hashem, Asher Hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim, that we can muster up within ourselves a koach that can take us out of Mitzrayim. Because we do have an Neshama Elokit that's much stronger than Paro, but we listen to this hafra'ah and we think we lose touch with our power. And that's kfirah. That's heresy. And now, Kabbalistically speaking, according to Sefer Yetzirah, there's the letters that sound the same when we pronounce them are interchangeable in Hebrew. So if you interchange a letter with a letter that sounds like it spells out a different word. It sounds the same, but it gives different meaning and insight into what it could be. And that's legit, okay? By the way, Rav Shimshon Hirsch does it all the time. So in this case, parach, okay, kfira, from if you're looking at the word as kafar, which means heresy, to deny Hashem's existence, you can replace kaf with a kuf. And when you replace kaf with a kuf, then parach becomes parak. Mazel lefarek, to break apart, purkan, to dismantle. So there's an insight into what this farech was. It's a dismantling of basic principles of emunah, purkan. And then another letter that it's a word that it spells out is fakar, fei kei resh, from the word hefkerut, which is lawlessness, hefker. So this whole Avodat Zarah sent us into this place of what did we say? Lefarek is breaking apart, a breaking up of something that should be held together, a dismantling of a structure, but in this case, not for the sake of building, just for it to stay broken, and lawlessness. And that's what the matzav of Mitzrayim. So in our own life, when we think about, am I in Mitzrayim? Well, do you feel broken? Do you feel confused? Do you feel lacking purpose? Do you feel lacking etzot tovot? You're in Mitzrayim. Hello. But there's good news, because there's always Yetziat Mitzraim. So now let's look at this. Okay. It always starts with identifying where you're holding, right? It's sad when people are in Mitzrayim and they don't really know that they're in Mitzrayim, which is what the case of the Jewish people were for 210 years until Moshe came and taught them otherwise. We're like, hello, let's bounce from this place. You deserve better and you can be better. And not everybody believed them. Or not everybody believed them, or they said, maybe it's true, but maybe you can do it, Moses, but
We're afraid.
right. I don't have it in me to just do that. I'm just gonna stay here. This is what I know and this is familiar. That's the saddest Mitzrayim ever. Okay, so now Charut ala luchot. This is interesting. But I'm looking for at the time, and do I want to give you this or do I want to go down? Okay, charut al luchot, which means engraved on the luchot. Oh, this is an interesting insight. Okay, look. In Shmot, Lamed Bet Zayin, in my document here. והלוחות מעשה אלוקים המה והמכתב, מכתב אלוקים הוא חרוט על הלוחות. Okay, so the tablets of the law, we got this in Midbar Sinai, right? So they were engraved, and the pasuk and the Gemaras that explain this pasuk, what does it mean? והמכתב, מכתב אלוקים הוא חרוט על הלוחות, that they were engraved from one end to the other end. In other words, it's not just a chiseling of one side. You could read it from both ends. You flip it over and you see. So now, this is very beautiful. But there's a problem that there's two letters that are there, that is the samech and the mem sofit, which are completely closed off letters, like samech and a mem sofit. But to identify the samech as a samech and not just a circle, you need like still part of the luach over there in the middle. And if it's engraved through and through, then that middle part, if you're engraving through, should have fallen out. But it wasn't. So the middle of like the holes, the middle holes of the samech and the mem in the luchot, it's explained, remain there miraculously. It's a nest, because naturally they should have fallen out. So that's why I have here in Bamin Rabba, Al Tikra Charut El Chirut. Don't read engraved Charut, read it Chirut. They got freedom. She'ein lecha ben chorin ela mi sheosek betalmud Torah. That there's no person that is free like a person who's osek betalmud Torah. But the implication of this is brilliant, what Rav Dandan taught me. Otiot samech mem umdot benes, right? The samech and the mem are remaining fixed in the place miraculously. How beautiful is it that samech and mem is Rashi Tevot of the Yetzer Hara of the Sar of Esav. Samech mem and Aleph Daled. We don't say his name. We call him Sammy for short. Koach hasamech mem. Don't call your children Sammy. Although my father-in-law, Alav Shalom, his name was Sam, and he was a delightful person. This is not, but whatever.
Shmuel is very important.
Shmuel, but just don't make it a Sammy. Okay. Anyway, so Sam and Shmuel is with the Shin, with this Samach, but they're also interchangeable, Samach and Shin. But okay, so the Samach and the Mem, which means, why is it so beautiful? Why did I get excited when I saw this? Because the Yetzer Hara, what does it do? We spoke about when we did the Samech. It entraps the person. It's like a Mitsuhyme. This is your place. You're not going anywhere. And the mem visually has the same effect on us. It's something that closes in on a person. But this midrash on this pasuk be speaking about how they were engraved and they were miraculously standing. And it's dafka, those letters, samech and mem. And we're saying, Al tikra charut el chirut, don't, so and it's the luchot, it's the Torah, right? It's the tablets of the law of Torah. So how do we get freedom from this Yetzer Hara that is represented by the samech and the mem, which entraps us? Learning Torah, right? So the chirut, the bouncing out of this place is the only way is through connection with Hashem, through the Torah Kedosha. And so then I think it's his own chidush, because he didn't quote, he's very good at quoting everything. But he says, that's why don't read Bnei Chorin, she'en lecha ben Chorin, there is no free person like a person in Torah. Bnei Chorin, which means free, can also be read as Bnei Chorim, because nun and mem are interchangeable when it comes at the end of the word. Kiddushim, Kiddushin. So what does Bnei Chorin, free people? But what does Bnei Chorim mean? The children of holes. In other words, we master this place that kept us trapped. We become the rulers of it instead of it entrapping us. We know how to handle it. We know how to control it. You follow? Beautiful, no? Shkoyach, Rav Dandan.
Is this book in English?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Too bad.
No, I just like, thank you so much, Eva Chaya.
I'm giving you a block.
Thank you. Amen.
Okay, here, Yerida, I'm going down the document, Yerida Mitzrayim. Okay. Oh, on page 2 already. Woo. Okay, so now, Yerida Mitzrayim. We descended to the language of going to Mitzrayim is Yerida Mitzrayim. And the language of going to Eretz Yisrael is what? Aliyah Eretz Yisrael, and it comes from Chumash. It comes from, so let's explore this, okay? First of all, there's two ways that Torah calls us as Jews, okay? We're either, hey, we're Bnei Yisrael. You're gonna have to see the recording of this. Just saying. We have Yaakov. What's the shorosh of Yaakov? Akev, which is the heel, which is the lowest point. And then we're also Israel, and the main word in the Israel is Rosh. So we go from a Kev, a lowly place, to Israel, which is Li Rosh, right? Ahead to me. So that's the journey. When we went down to Mitzrayim, it's spoken of as Yeridat Yaakov vebanav le'eretz Mitzrayim. It's the lashon is Yerida leMitzrayim, and the Yetziat from Mitzrayim and the entering into Eretz Yisrael is Aliyah le'eretz Yisrael. Now I'm going to share with you. You don't have it, but you don't have it, you guys. But I'm sharing here the document that I have. From Dandan, it was too much for me to write it out and type it out, so I just took a picture from his book. So just listen, okay? These are all the psukim that he quotes from Breshit and Shmot and other places that speak about Yerida Mitzrayim. Every time a person goes to Mitzrayim, Vayi Rav Ba'aretz, Vayered Avram Mitzrayim. You followed? Vayelech Yitzchak el Avimelech, Vayera elav Hashem, Vayomer Al Tered Mitzrayim. Okay. Next, Gmalehem Nosim. When Yaakov Avinu sent his children with gifts to this ruler in Mitzrayim, which is Yosef, but they didn't know Yosef yet. Gmalehem Nosim, all of these spices, Nechot, Utzri, Valot, Ochim, Lehorid Mitzrayim. Okay. Yud Zayin. Now Yosef, when he was taken, actually no, that was the Ishmaelim that had the caravan of spices, that pasuk, Lehorid Mitzrayim. They had this caravan of spices that Yosef was sold to them. Now, when Yosef was taken to Mitzrayim, Vayosef hurad Mitzrayim. Now, when we all went down to Mitzrayim, B'shiv'im nefesh yardu avotecha Mitzrayim.
Very convincing. We're convinced.
Arami Oved Davi, Vayered Mitzrayim. Now I'm going to read you the psukim that has to do with Eretz Yisrael every time, right? Vayomer Elokim Yisrael al tira. Don't be afraid, Merda Mitzrayim. Anochi ered imcha Mitzrayim, because when he's referencing Mitzrayim it's Yerida. Ve'anochi e'elcha gam alo, and I will raise you, and I will raise you. וידבר יוסף אל בית פרעה לאמור, אעלנה ואקברה את אביו. ויעל יוסף לקבור את אביו. ויעלו איתו כל עבדי פרעה, even עבדי פרעה. When they go to Israel, it's an aliyah. Okay, ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, אלוקים פקוד יפקוד אתכם, והעלה אתכם מן הארץ הזאת. אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאברהם. אעלה אתכם מעוני מצרים. אל ארץ, זבת חלב ודבש. וייסעו בני ישראל מרמסס, וגם ערב רב עלה איתם. So there's an aliyah even to ערב רב when they attach themselves to us. Okay? Etc. You get the point, right? There's more. Isn't this awesome? Stop sharing. Okay. Now, and I'm going to start. Oh, my. Okay. Okay, good. So now let's talk about the midbar. What do you notice about the word midbar? Dibur, because it's also the same letters that make up medaber. Okay, so it's all the midbar is all about koach hadibur, because Yetziat Mitzraim is discovering our voice of tefillah, of emunah. At the whole tkufa, 40 years in the desert, it was a training ground how to use this koach hadibur. So midbar kmo, now he explains like this. I have it here. Midbar is like the word miklat, mitbach, mikdash. What's a miklat? A makom miklat, makom shekoltim bo bnei adam. Miklat, arei miklat, refuge cities. It's a place that absorbs people. What is mitbach? It's a kitchen. But why is mitbach called a kitchen? Mitbach. Makom shetovchim bo behema. Beit HaMitbachaim, it's not a kitchen. Beit HaMitbachaim is actually an place where they chef. Abattoir, okay? Mitbach, it's a makom av, tevach. Okay, makom av, miklat. Mikdash, makom shemekachim et Hashem, that we sanctify. So in that context, what is midbar? Makom, what are we doing there? Medabrim. It's a place of talking. Midbar, so the mahut, the essence of midbar is dibur. So this is the essence that Am Yisrael is defined meromam mikol halashonot. We're raised above all other languages. That's why we say this in Musaf, no? Veromamtanu mikol halashonot. You took us out of Mitsuhyme and you raised this above all other languages. It's languages, like what does that even mean? Because there is kedusha to sfat kodesh, lashon kodesh, because this connects us to higher spirituality. And when we know how to pray, to open this mouth with tefillah, Torah and tefillah, this is because as we see, no other language can do this. So consistently that every word in the Yetziat Mitzraim story is a chapter unto itself, just to unpack it, right? So how do we get to cherut ruchanit? How do we get to spiritual redemption, spiritual freedom? There's a pasuk in Yeshayahu that refers to us, Mem Aleph Yudalid, as Tolat Yaakov, the worm of Yaakov, we're called. And people want to know, why is Yeshayahu comparing us to a tolat, a worm? Rashi says, I have it on the document, the family of Yaakov, which is weak like a worm, has a strength, which has no strength except in its mouth. Just as a tolat can eat through a weak, we can eat through the strongest of trees, the cedar trees. It could eat away at a cedar tree. That's how the koach of tefillah of a Jew can break through every Mitzrayim, every makom tsar, every tzara, and we have to know to use this koach of tefillah, because that is the chirut, and the training ground of the 40 years in the desert is to teach us how to use speech properly in the midbar, koach hadibur. And if you notice, if you, I didn't bring it because I knew that I was gonna not have time, but like the first chapters of midbar, it's so frustrating because they're constantly, what are they doing? Complaining. All the time. We don't have water. We don't have this. We have too much of. He finally sent us the birds. It's too much. It's making them sick. He's sending a food like a heaven from food that's satisfying them. No, we're sick of it. Constantly every time having a complaint, and they had to learn to move from that type of speech that they left the Mitzrayim pera, to train them to how do you transform that to constructive speech that's going to actually end you up in Eretz Yisrael and not be stuck in this limbo place. So when they got to the Yam Suf, I'm reading the pasuk. It's called Pi Hachirot. That place is Pi Hachirot. Already you have enough knowledge within you, right? It's exciting, just Pi Hachirot, right? Vayirdefu Mitzrayim achareihem, vayasigu otam chonim al hayam. The Egyptians are chasing after the Israel, and they got to them as they were encamped at the Yam. Kol sus rechav paro ufarashav, all of the horses and chariots of Paro and the chariot riders, vechilo and all his soldiers, al pi hachirot. Where did they meet up with them? At this place called pi hachirot. Pi, pe, chirut, freedom. What's the significance of this? What's the significance of this? Okay, right. Vayosha Hashem. Now look. Now, why? What? In terms of the story that was unfolding, how do we? On the pshat level, we got our freedom because we escaped from them. Okay, and we're finally gonna go through the Yam Suf that's gonna split. But the pnimiyut, there's just more to unpack. More. That's pshat. That's exciting, but wait. Now look. Vayosha, and I'm reading this pasuk. Vayosha Hashem bayom ahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim. This is in Shirat Hayam. Vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim met al Sfat Hayam. They saw them dead on what? On Sfat Hayam. Sfat Hayam. What is Safa? Lips of the sea. Al Sfat Hayam. Vayavo bnei Yisrael betoch Hayam. And when the sea split, what happens when we separate our lips? They sang. We can speak. It's like open your lips, daven, scream out to Hashem, sing to Hashem, pray. When we open our lips, when we split the sea, in other words, when we get to a Yam Suf, the first thing is this is scary because we don't know how it's gonna end because our mouth is still closed because we don't know what to daven for. We're just scared. We just feel everything is closing in. The Egyptians are behind us. The wild animals are around us. The sea is in front of us. And we're like, Yam Suf, I got to the Sofa Derech. I got to the end. That's it. That's it. Every way I look, I'm doomed. But then what happens? Open your mouth. But it's interesting that Hashem tells Moshe at that point, say, Mati tzakelai. What are you screaming? This is not time of screaming. And then Moshe tells Am Yisrael, Hashem yilachem lachem v'atem tacharishun. Hashem will fight for you, and you will remain silent. So there's a time also to know when, but it's coming from a place of strength, of bitachon, of emunah, of when. Okay, now you did your davening, and now just let Hashem do His thing. Right? Don't. Sometimes too much talking is also like it gets. So there's a little bit that, but I'm not going on that track right now. I just decided to share with you just in case you will, think I missed it. I didn't. But okay. Vayosha Hashem bayom ahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim. And Mitzrayim is met al Sfat Hayam. Okay, so they're dead. Mitzrayim, this Makom Tzal, this Paro, which is the ruler of all of this, is met. We finally got freed from him. When we had our safa, when we found our language and we opened up our mouth, and it's like the Tolat Yaakov, and it's like we create the reality because we're created b'tselem Elokim, and we're in the image of God. And how did God create the world? B'dibur, with words. And so how do we create our reality? B'dibur. Framing is everything. How you frame something in language, right? And then once they open up their mouth and they understand this process, then they can enter the Yam. Okay, what's the Yam? How do we visually fit this into all like what we've been saying? So Rav Dan explains, what does this mean? Like, just before I answer that question, that the waters split and they stood like walls from their left and to the right, just like lips are like above and below, right? So mamash. Now, what happens when the sea split? There was like they were able to walk on dry land. What happens when we open up our mouth? There's like a vacuum in our mouth that then can be filled with words, right? That's how words are formed in this cavity called, okay, this halal. And now, what did I want to say? Does anybody remember what I interrupted myself before?
Yeah, you were talking about the Israel opening their mouth in song.
Okay.
Allowing the Dead Sea.
Yeah, so okay, whatever. I don't remember. But okay, now look down in my document. Peh. The word peh. Peh, hey, which is the mouth that we're talking about. And milah, word is the same gematria, 85. So, which means that the essence of a mouth is not to eat chocolate, it's to talk words of tefillah. Okay, pe, milah, and milah, okay, is 85. And look at this, safa, which means language, but also means the lips that move when we speak, and those the lips that open up the mouth, and Shekhinah are both 385. Same gematria. When something has the same gematria, that means they're connected spiritually, conceptually, they're connected. And so, how do we make ourselves open up to the Shekhinah, to Hashraat HaShekhinah? Tefillah. We have to avodah shebalev. We have to open up our mouths and pray, and that is the key. Now look down here. Kol Yaakov. Right? What's the difference between us and Esav? Hakol Kol Yaakov v'yadai midei Esav. Now look at the word kol. Kol is the voice. What is the Kol Yaakov? It's the voice of Tefillah and Torah, right? Torah and Tefillah, right? We all agree to that. Ishtam Yeshavu Alim. Kol. That word is made up of a kuf, a vav, and a lamed, which is the only letter that descends to the depths under the line. Kuf. Which is the only one that ascends above. So, and what's the vav? Vav achibur. It's a connector. Which means Yaakov, when he's low, when we are feeling everywhere in Tanakh, when we're called Bnei Yaakov, it means we're not doing so great spiritually. We're in a low spiritual state. What's going to get us to come to our own again in this Prinat of Bnei Israel? Kol. You have to be, and what happens then when I do that, when we use our voice in Tefillah, then we connect the Akev of Yaakov, that lowly place that we don't, not such a great place, to the highest of places, to Li Rosh. And now look what else is on the document. Kol, Kuv Vav Lamed, is 136. What else is 136? What did Yaakov Avinu dream of that connected himself from here to Shamayim? Sulam. Sulam is 136, just like Kol. Kol is Sulam. Because, and what's a ladder? It's a way to ascend from low to high. Sulam Yaakov, as opposed to Amalek, because Amalek also has a lamed and a kuf. But where Yaakov goes from low to high, what does Amalek want to? Where does he want to keep us? In a low place. A nation that is lak, from lamed to a kuf. We just went Mitsuhyme, and he wants to bring us down to the bottom of the pit, to the kuf, to the place of klipot, not from a place of kedusha, right? To a place of klipot. Now, Mashiach.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm having
my
trouble
brain
just
is
because
bursting.
I'm exploding.
You're exploding, I'm bursting.
I mean,
I love this.
Torah
I'm just-
hi
I
chayenu.
wanna
This is
hear it all over
here.
again.
Mashiach, Melech Israel, because we want to leave Paro, that bad king that keeps us subjugated into our patterns and all our ichi-pichis, right? And he says, no, we want to be a Yetziat Mitzraim. We're going to use our kol, right? We're going to go into the midbar. We're going to be medabrim. And we want Melech HaMashiach to rule over us. Mashiach, otiot yismach, mean is the same letters rearranged. He shall rejoice, okay? Melech Israel is Mashiach. But Mashiach, the Shin, depending on where you put the dot on the Shin, it could be a Shin or it could be a Sin. Messiah, which means what? To speak, Sicha. The way to access the inner point of Mashiach and redemption within ourselves and get Geulah is this avoda called Tefillah, Hitbodedut, Sicha im HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tefillah la'ani ki yatof, v'lifnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh. What was he doing in that field when Rivka came and made her fall off the camel? He was doing Hitbodedut in the basuach basadeh. So Paro, now this is going to be the final thing. Paro is, like I mentioned, ha'orif, right? There's a lot of Torahs in Rabbi Nachman. Oh, like when Yosef, I can't. I want to. Like Paro has ministers working for him. Yes. Like who were in jail? Who were hanging out in jail with Yosef? The butler, the baker,
and the wine person.
and the wine person. This ha'oref. Listen. Ha'oref.
Yeah.
What's in this narrow place? The vocal cords, the esophagus, the trachea. And so Paro is in control of all of those things. And then Rabbi Nachman does a whole thing about how each one, Veshet, Kaneh, now all of the words that deal with those ministers at Paro, how they keep us enslaved in this Mitsuhyme that we then have to, which block the dat to reach our lev, severing the dat of Kedusha to enter the lev and keeps us in Mitsuhyme. Now, Savar is also another word. Okay, Savar means neck. Look at the Hebrew word, how it's spelled. Tzadi, Vav, Aleph, Reish. Do you notice what the outside letters of the word Savar is? Neck? Tsar. And what's in between? Vav and an Aleph. Connect to the Aleph and you'll split the Tsar. You won't be in this Makom Tsar anymore. That's the use. That's how we're supposed to use everything that's in here to connect us to Hashem. How we eat, how we speak, everything that's like the vocal cords. This is a tzava. Everything just lines up. Everything just lines up so beautifully. And that's the end of my document. And that's my stop of the sharing of the screen.
Yeah.
More.
You read the thing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I typed it. These are I took notes and then I made sure to type it because and there's more I didn't get to, but oh well.
I'm sure that all that is contained with whatever it is.
No, that's actually a different thing. Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna